The subtitle of the book is Nurturing Your Inner Wisdom, which means you need to sort that out through practice, not through theory or philosophy, but through the actual practice, changing your eating behavior, changing your communications, doing the actual meditation practice, doing the yoga, doing the deep breathing exercises. Ego is even more complex because we have two very different concepts that roll through the book and they roll through society. The one I think anybody really listening in English would certainly know of Sigmund Freud and his theories from like 100-some years ago about ego development. And it might mean the self, the notion of self, or we use the word egotistical. I'm better than you. I have a faster car than you. You're smarter than me. All of those are ego statements. But, you and I live here in Asia. We have for quite a long time. So we're influenced by Buddhism also, which has a different take on ego, which is the very notion of a self, that there is actually a Tom exists as an individual entity, which Buddhism deeply challenges and says there's no such thing as the individual being known as Nick or Tom or anybody else. So in the book, I try to walk both cultures. Let's say the Western concept of the ego, I, me, mine, and that's yours, the separation, compared to the Buddhist concept, which will show that through deep practice, you realize that the individual entity itself is not real. You're asking, in a sense, maybe a little bit more in the Western sense, which makes sense. You and I are both, growing up in the Western world. Much of our audience is thinking that's what we mean by ego. Nobody's better than anybody else. And as soon as I think I'm better than somebody, that's called bullshit. And with meditation, I see I am that way. The truth is, I do think I'm better than person A and person B. But when I start working on my meditation, I look deeper inside, I think, that's ridiculous, Tom. That is not true, and you know it's not true. And you bring the mindfulness, the silence of the mind, until that feeling fades away and think, that was a very childish thing for me to be feeling, that I'm better than somebody because I stopped eating meat, or because I meditate, or because I live in Asia, or I speak a foreign language, or I'm tall, or I'm a male, or whatever my identity, doesn't make me better than any other living being. Coming back to our social justice experiment. Right. How could I possibly be any better than anybody else? So we challenge that ego. And as we go deeper and deeper, and if you're interested in the Buddhist line of thinking, it has to be experiential. Because I can read Buddhism all day. It's like, yeah, great Buddha, but I still have an ego. I realize it's the practice, which is why this book is hands-on. It's not a book of theory or philosophy. It's a practice, and you learn through practice. You gain your own insights, and you realize your own truths. And this book is trying its best to point the way to the truth.